The night shift at Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station was usually quiet. Most operators spent their time watching endless streams of data, looking for any unusual patterns in the vast emptiness of space. But on this cold October night, everything changed. Tom Miller sat up straight in his chair as his screen lit up with unusual readings. At first, he thought it was a glitch. The energy signatures near Jupiter's orbit were unlike anything he had seen before. He rubbed his tired eyes and looked again. "Sir," he called out to his supervisor, "you need to see this." Station Chief Robert Parker walked over, coffee cup in hand. As he looked at the screen, the cup slipped from his fingers and shattered on the floor. Nobody moved to clean it up. The readings were impossible to ignore. A massive collection of objects, each larger than any human spacecraft, drifting silently near Jupiter. "Get me United Space Command, now," Parker ordered, his voice steady despite the situation. "And someone wake up the director." Within an hour, the station's main control room was packed with scientists, military officers, and government officials. The initial scans revealed more details. Over 300 vessels of varying sizes, all seemingly powerless, drifting through space like leaves on a pond. Commander James Wilson of the U.S. Hope, Earth's largest space rescue vessel, stood before the Emergency Council. His ship had been preparing for a routine mission to Mars, but now faced something far more challenging. "The vessels appear to be dead in space," he explained, pointing to the holographic display. "We're detecting minimal power signatures and what appears to be a repeating signal. Our best guess is it's a distress call." The council members looked at each other nervously. First contact with alien life, and it came in the form of a massive fleet that needed help. Some worried it might be a trap. Others saw it as an opportunity to prove humanity's worth to the galaxy. "Time is critical," Wilson continued. "If these ships are running on emergency power, we need to act fast. I propose leading a rescue mission." Director Anna Thompson of the Space Command stood up. "You have authorization, Commander. Take whatever resources you need. This could be humanity's most important mission." The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. The U.S. Hope, along with 5 other rescue ships, was quickly loaded with emergency supplies and extra power generators. No one knew if their equipment would be compatible with alien technology, but they had to try. As the rescue fleet approached the stranded ships, they got their first clear views. The alien vessels were beautiful, sleek silver shapes that seemed to flow like liquid metal, now dark and lifeless in space. The largest was nearly 2 miles long, dwarfing even the biggest human ships. Beginning approach to the central vessel, Wilson reported from the Hope's bridge. "All teams, stand by for first contact procedures." The human ships moved carefully among the alien fleet, their spotlights illuminating the massive hulls. Close-up scans revealed more detail. These ships had suffered some kind of massive power failure. Their engines, while far more advanced than human technology, were completely dead. Then came the moment that would change human history forever. A weak transmission reached the Hope's communications array. The alien language was unlike anything ever heard before, but the tone was universal. A call for help. "Send the first contact package," Wilson ordered. They had prepared for this, broadcasting simple mathematical sequences and peaceful intentions in every known format. The response came faster than expected. The aliens had already decoded human languages from our radio and television broadcasts. Their message was clear. They needed help, and they needed it soon. Wilson looked out at the massive fleet before him. This was humanity's chance to prove itself to the galaxy. They might not have the most advanced technology, but humans had something special. The ability to solve problems with whatever tools they had available. "All ships, begin rescue operations," he commanded. "Let's show our new friends what humanity can do." The greatest space rescue mission in human history had begun, and the next few days would test the limits of human ingenuity, courage, and compassion. The first meeting between humans and the aliens took place in the emergency docking bay of the U.S. Hope. Commander Wilson stood with his team as the airlock cycled, everyone holding their breath. When the door finally opened, they found themselves face to face with beings that looked almost like tall, silver-skinned humans. The alien leader introduced himself as Captain Bright Star, a name translated to something humans could understand. His silver skin seemed to shimmer even in the dim light, and his eyes were deep pools of swirling blue. "Our situation is grave," Bright Star said through a translator device. "We are refugees, fleeing from the death of our home system's star. We had no choice but to leave everything behind." Wilson listened as the alien captain explained their crisis. The refugee fleet carried over 2 million civilians, including many children. They had been traveling for months when they encountered an unexpected solar flare near Jupiter. The powerful burst of energy had overwhelmed their shields and damaged their quantum drive systems. "Our technology is advanced," Bright Star admitted, "but sometimes that makes it more fragile. We have no simple backup systems. Everything is connected through quantum networks that are now failing." The human engineering team, led by Chief Engineer Mike Peters, began reviewing the technical data. The alien ships used technology far beyond human understanding. Drives that bent space itself, power systems that tapped into quantum energy fields. But now those same advanced systems were their biggest weakness. "How long do we have?" Wilson asked. Bright Star's expression darkened. 72 hours at most. After that, life support will fail on our larger ships first. 2 million lives. He didn't need to finish the sentence. Wilson turned to Peters. "What are we looking at?" The engineer scratched his head. "Their tech is incredible, but it's all or nothing. When their quantum network failed, everything went down. It's like having a super advanced house where a broken fuse doesn't just kill the lights, it stops the walls from existing. Can we fix it? Not in 3 days. We'd need years just to understand how it works." Peters paused, then smiled. "But maybe we don't have to fix it. Maybe we can bypass it." Wilson gathered his team for an emergency meeting. As Peters explained his plan, hope began to grow. The aliens' technology might be advanced, but human ships still used tried-and-true fusion generators. They weren't elegant, but they were reliable. "We can't fix their quantum drives," Peters explained to both human and alien engineers. "But we can hook up our generators to power their basic systems. It won't be pretty, and it won't get their fancy drives working, but it might keep life support running." The alien engineers looked skeptical. One of them, called White Cloud, spoke up. "Your power systems are primitive. Our ships require precise, quantum-balanced energy flows." Peters grinned. "Sometimes primitive is exactly what you need. Like using a ladder when the elevator breaks down." As they talked, the situation on the refugee ships grew worse. Reports came in of failing systems on the outer vessels. Temperature control was already failing in some sections, and the artificial gravity was becoming unstable. Wilson made his decision. "We start with the ships in the worst condition. Engineer Peters, coordinate with the alien technical teams. I want emergency power hookups ready to test in 6 hours." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Human rescue ships moved carefully between the massive alien vessels, extending power cables that looked tiny compared to the huge ships they were trying to save. Engineers from both species worked side by side, human simplicity meeting alien complexity. In the U.S. Hope's medical bay, doctors began preparing for possible evacuees. They studied alien biology data, amazed by how similar yet different their new friends were. Other teams organized emergency supplies, calculated power requirements, and planned rescue operations if the power transfers failed. Time was running out. As the first day of rescue operations drew to a close, everyone felt the weight of 2 million lives hanging in the balance. The aliens had fled their dying star only to face death in the shadows of Jupiter. Now their only hope lay in the hands of a species they had just met, a species that refused to give up, no matter the odds. The real test was about to begin. and no one knew if human determination would be enough to overcome the massive technological gap between the two civilizations. The first test of the emergency power system was about to begin on one of the smaller alien ships. Engineer Peters stood in the U.S. Hope's control room, watching as power readings flickered across his screen. Beside him, the alien engineer White Cloud looked nervous. "Ready for power transfer," Peters said into his radio. He turned to White Cloud. "Your people better be behind those radiation shields we set up." The connection between the human fusion generator and the alien ship's systems wasn't pretty. Thick cables stretched through space, held steady by small guidance thrusters. It looked like someone had hooked up a car battery to a computer from the future. Beginning power transfer in 3, 2, 1. The lights on his console turned green as energy began flowing. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, lights began to flicker on the alien vessel. Systems that had been dark for days showed signs of life. "It's working." White Cloud's usual calm disappeared as he watched his people's technology respond to the human power source. The basic life support systems are accepting the energy flow. Peters grinned. "Sometimes the old ways work best. Your ships might be able to bend space, but our generators just keep running and running." The news spread quickly through both fleets. The human solution, while far from elegant, could work, but they needed more power. Much more. Commander Wilson immediately sent out a call for help to Earth. The response from Earth exceeded all expectations. Within hours, every major nation offered help. Ships that had been rivals days ago now worked together. Russian cargo vessels carried American generators. Chinese space stations redirected power to help boost the rescue effort. European space tugs hauled fresh supplies from Earth orbit. In mission control, Wilson coordinated the growing rescue fleet. "We've proven the concept works," he told his assembled team. "Now we need to scale up. Fast. We have 58 hours left before the biggest ships start losing life support." The plan they developed was ambitious. Human ships would work in teams, surrounding each alien vessel like worker bees around a hive. Each team would hook up multiple generators, providing enough power to maintain basic systems. The work was dangerous. Engineers in spacesuits had to attach power cables to alien ships that dwarfed them. One wrong move near these massive hulls could mean instant death. But no one hesitated. Back on Earth, factories worked around the clock to build more generators and cables. Every available space launch system was dedicated to getting supplies to the rescue fleet. It was the largest space operation in human history. Peters and White Cloud led the technical teams, teaching human and alien engineers to work together. They developed a new system that didn't even have a proper name yet. People just called it the Peters Cloud method of power adaptation. "Your quantum systems are amazing," Peters told White Cloud as they worked. "But they're like a perfect glass sculpture. Beautiful, efficient, but break one piece and the whole thing shatters. Our technology is more like, well, like a pile of rocks. Not pretty, but hard to break, and if one part fails, the rest keeps working." White Cloud nodded slowly. "We never considered building systems this way. We always sought perfection. Perhaps we forgot the value of resilience." The next challenge came from an unexpected source. The alien ship's computer systems, running on minimal power, began to fail. Without their quantum processors, they couldn't even control basic functions like air circulation and temperature regulation. That's when Linda Brown, a young computer engineer, had an idea. "We can't power their quantum computers," she said during an emergency meeting. "But we can hook up our own computers. They're simpler, but they can handle the basic functions." Wilson looked at Bright Star. "Would your people accept that? Using human computers to control your ships?" The alien captain had seen enough of human ingenuity to trust them. "At this point, Commander, we would be foolish to reject any solution that could save our people." As the rescue mission passed its halfway point, humanity's greatest strengths were on full display. It wasn't their technology that made humans special. It was their ability to improvise, to find solutions where none seemed possible, and most importantly, their unwavering determination to help others in need. But even as they celebrated their initial successes, everyone knew the biggest challenges still lay ahead. The clock was still ticking, and 2 million lives still hung in the balance. The mission clock showed 36 hours remaining when the first major crisis hit. Warning alarms blared through the U.S. Hope's bridge as red lights flashed on the main display screen. Power failure on the alien flagship, the sensor operator shouted. Their primary life support hub is shutting down. Commander Wilson rushed to the command center. The flagship was the largest vessel in the alien fleet, home to over 200,000 refugees. Its massive size, which had once been its strength, now made it the most vulnerable. "Get me Peters," Wilson ordered, and his chief engineer's tired face appeared on the screen. "I see it," Peters said before Wilson could speak. "The power demands are too much for our current setup. We need more generators, or we'll lose the whole ship." But there weren't any more generators to send. Every available power source was already in use, keeping other ships alive. They had to find another way. That's when Linda Brown, still running calculations on her tablet, looked up. "What if we redirect power from all nearby ships? Create a power chain like Christmas lights?" White Cloud, who had been learning about Earth customs, understood the reference immediately. "Yes, we can channel power through multiple ships, using their own internal systems as conduits." It was risky. If something went wrong, they could lose power to a dozen ships at once. But they had no choice. The flagship's temperature was already dropping, and reports came in of people falling ill in the colder sections. Wilson made his decision. "Do it. But I want backup plans ready if anything goes wrong." What followed was the most complex space operation ever attempted by humans. Rescue ships had to move in perfect coordination, connecting power lines between alien vessels while maintaining their own position. One wrong move could tear the cables apart. Inside the flagship, alien families huddled together as the temperature continued to fall. Emergency teams distributed thermal blankets, but they knew it was only a temporary solution. Without main power, the air would soon become unbreathable. Peters and White Cloud led the operation from a small control room, surrounded by screens showing power levels and system status. Human and alien engineers worked side by side, calling out readings and making rapid adjustments. Power flowed at 80% capacity, someone called out. "Temperature dropping more slowly now," another reported. "Air recyclers coming back online." Slowly, the flagship's critical systems stabilized. The massive ship hummed back to life, its corridors warming as fresh air began to circulate again. In the refugee sections, people cheered as the lights brightened. But they weren't done yet. The power chain solution meant they had to completely redesign their rescue operation. Every ship was now connected, dependent on each other for survival. It was a perfect symbol of cooperation between the two species. Hours passed in a blur of activity. Space crews performed emergency repairs in freezing conditions. Engineers worked without rest, monitoring power levels and fixing problems as they arose. Medical teams treated cases of hypothermia and oxygen deprivation. Through it all, the human rescue teams showed incredible bravery. When a power coupling failed on one of the ships, 2 engineers named Jack and Mary volunteered to fix it, despite the dangerous radiation levels. They completed the repair just as their radiation shields were about to fail. The alien refugees watched in amazement as these humans risked their lives again and again to save strangers from another world. Their own advanced technology lay useless, while these primitive humans used simple tools and raw courage to keep them alive. Bright Star, watching the rescue efforts from the U.S. Hope, turned to Commander Wilson. "We had heard stories about humans," he said quietly, "about how your species survived so many challenges. Now I understand. You never give up, no matter how impossible things seem." Wilson smiled tiredly. "That's just what humans do. We fix problems, we help others, and we don't know when to quit. As they reached the mission's halfway point, the immediate crisis was under control. But everyone knew they couldn't relax yet. The power chain solution was working, but it was fragile. One failure could still bring down the entire network. And somewhere in the vast alien fleet, another problem was brewing, one that would push human ingenuity and courage to their absolute limits. With the immediate power crisis under control, the crews finally had a moment to breathe. In the U.S. Hope's main recreation area, something unexpected was happening. Human crew members and alien refugees were sharing their first meal together. The scene would have been impossible just days ago. Now, humans and aliens sat side by side, trying each other's food and sharing stories. The aliens were amazed by simple things like coffee and sandwiches, while the humans marveled at the aliens' nutrient crystals that changed flavor based on the eater's needs. In one corner, Engineer Peters sat with White Cloud, both holding cups of coffee. The alien engineer had quickly become addicted to the Earth beverage. "I still don't understand," White Cloud said, taking another sip. "Your species went from primitive rockets to fusion power in less than a century." "How?" Peters thought for a moment. "We're impatient, I guess. We see something impossible and think, why not? Then we keep trying until it works." At another table, Linda Brown was showing a group of alien children how to play cards. The young aliens were fascinated by the simple paper cards, so different from their complex holographic games. "But it's just paper," one of the alien children said, carefully holding a playing card. "How can you have fun with something so simple?" Linda smiled. "Sometimes the simplest things are the most fun. Watch this." She proceeded to show them how to build a card house, and soon the table was surrounded by aliens of all ages, watching in wonder as the simple paper cards formed delicate structures. Commander Wilson and Captain Brightstar walked through the room, observing these interactions. The alien captain shook his head in amazement. "You know," Brightstar said, "when we first detected your broadcasts years ago, we thought Earth was still centuries away from real space travel. Your technology seemed so basic." "And now?" Wilson asked. "Now I understand that technology isn't everything. Your people solved in days what our best engineers couldn't figure out in weeks. You did it with parts we would consider obsolete, using methods we'd never think of." Their conversation was interrupted by excited shouts from another part of the room. A human mechanic named Bob was arm wrestling with an alien engineer, while a crowd from both species cheered them on. Despite the alien's superior strength, they were evenly matched because the alien had never encountered this strange human contest before. In the ship's science lab, another kind of exchange was taking place. The aliens had begun sharing their star charts, showing human scientists the vast regions of space they had explored. In return, the humans shared their unique approach to space navigation. "You navigate by pulsars?" An alien scientist asked, surprised. "We never considered using such simple reference points. Our quantum positioning systems are much more precise." "Until they break down," a human scientist replied with a smile. "You can't break a pulsar." The aliens were particularly impressed by human medical techniques. Their own medical technology was highly advanced, but relied entirely on automated systems. When those systems failed, they had no backup. Human doctors, with their mix of high-tech tools and basic hands-on skills, were teaching alien medics the value of having multiple ways to solve a problem. As the day progressed, more barriers broke down. Alien children taught human children their games, while human children introduced them to soccer using a makeshift ball in a cargo bay. Engineers from both species worked together, combining their knowledge to create new solutions. In the ship's communications center, teams worked to preserve this newfound knowledge. Humans learned about advanced quantum mechanics while aliens studied human engineering principles. Both sides recognized that together, they were stronger than either was alone. "Look at them," Wilson said to Brightstar as they ended their tour. "A week ago, we didn't know each other existed. Now we're teaching each other card tricks and sharing coffee." Brightstar's expression became serious. When our star began to die, we thought we had lost everything. Perhaps, instead, we have found something more valuable than what we left behind. But even as both species grew closer, alarms began blaring through the ship. A new crisis was developing, one that would put their newfound partnership to the ultimate test. The next few hours would prove whether this bond between humans and aliens was strong enough to overcome their greatest challenge yet. The emergency alarms echoed through the U.S. Hope as Commander Wilson rushed to the bridge. The latest crisis was different from the others. This time, the threat wasn't to life support, but to something equally precious. The archive vessel is losing power, Bright Star explained, his voice tight with worry. That ship carries our entire civilization's history, our art, our science, everything we managed to save before our star died. The archive vessel floated at the edge of the fleet, its sleek shape now dark and lifeless. Unlike the other ships, its power requirements were unique. The quantum storage systems holding millions of years of alien history needed special energy patterns to stay stable. "How long do we have?" Wilson asked. 6 hours, Engineer Peters replied, studying the readings. "After that, the containment fields will fail. We'll lose everything. Their whole civilization's knowledge will just disappear." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what was at stake. This wasn't just about saving lives anymore. It was about saving an entire culture's memory. Linda Brown, who had been quietly working at her station, suddenly stood up. "I think I have an idea. It's crazy, but it might work." She explained her plan. The human ship's fusion generators created specific energy pulses as a byproduct, pulses they usually had to dampen. If they could amplify these pulses instead and sync them with the alien quantum storage systems, it's never been done before, Peters warned. The radiation levels would be extremely dangerous. Even with our best shielding, anyone working near the generators would be exposed. "I'll do it," Linda said firmly. "I know the system better than anyone." White Cloud stepped forward. "I will help. Together, we have a better chance." Wilson looked at them both. "You understand the risks. Even with radiation suits, you'll be exposed to dangerous levels." They nodded. There was no other choice. The next few hours were a blur of activity. The U.S. Hope moved into position alongside the archive vessel. Engineers modified the fusion generators, while medical teams prepared for possible radiation exposure. Linda and White Cloud put on their radiation suits, checking each other's seals. The human suit looked bulky next to the alien's sleek protective gear, but both would be tested to their limits. "Ready?" Linda asked. "Ready," White Cloud replied. "My people have a saying. Knowledge lights the darkness. Today, we make sure that light doesn't go out." They entered the generator room. The normal hum of the fusion reactor had changed to a high-pitched whine, as it was pushed beyond its normal limits. The radiation meters on their suits were already climbing. "Beginning pulse synchronization," Linda called out, her hands moving across the controls. "White Cloud, monitor the quantum feedback." The first attempt failed. So did the second. Each time, the energy pulses refused to match the complex patterns needed by the alien storage systems. The radiation levels kept rising. "We need to get them out of there," the medical officer warned. "They're approaching dangerous exposure levels." But Linda had one more idea. "The problem isn't the pulses," she said, her voice strained. "It's the pattern. White Cloud, remember how we played cards? Sometimes simple is better. What if we try a basic repeating sequence instead of matching their complex one?" White Cloud understood immediately. Just as humans had saved their ships with simple power solutions, perhaps they could save their knowledge the same way. They made the adjustments. The generator's whine changed pitch. On their monitors, they watched as the energy patterns began to align. Not perfectly, but enough. "It's working," White Cloud called out. "The archive systems are stabilizing." But their success came at a cost. Both Linda and White Cloud had been exposed to high radiation levels. Medical teams rushed them to the infirmary as soon as they excited the generator room. Hours later, in the medical bay, Linda woke up to find both Commander Wilson and Captain Bright Star waiting. "Did it work?" she asked weakly. "It worked," Wilson smiled. "The archive vessel is stable. You and White Cloud saved their history. Your bravery will be remembered in those archives," Bright Star added. "A human and an alien, working together to save our past." But even as they celebrated this victory, a new alert came through. The power chain connecting the refugee ships was showing strange readings. The final challenge of this rescue mission was about to begin, and it would take everything both species had learned from each other to face it. 2 weeks had passed since the first distress signal. On the bridge of the U.S. Hope, Commander Wilson looked out at the alien fleet, now humming with life. The emergency was over, but what came next would change both civilizations forever. Engineer Peters stood at his station, reviewing the latest readings. The power chain linking all the ships had evolved into something new, a combination of human and alien technology that worked better than either system alone. "Look at this," he called to Wilson. "The aliens have started adapting our fusion generators to work with their quantum systems. They're not just accepting our help anymore. They're learning from it." In the medical bay, Linda Brown was finally back on her feet. The radiation exposure from saving the archive vessel had been serious, but human and alien doctors working together had found a treatment. White Cloud visited her daily, bringing strange alien fruits that helped with the healing. "Our medical teams want to study your recovery," White Cloud told her. "We never knew biological systems could adapt to radiation exposure this way. It could help us develop better treatments." Captain Bright Star called a joint meeting of human and alien leaders on the Hope's main deck. The room was packed with people from both species, all eager to hear what would happen next. "We came to your system as refugees," Bright Star began, "with no home and no hope. We thought our advanced technology would save us. But in the end, it was human determination and ingenuity that kept us alive." He activated a holographic display showing a region of space near Jupiter. "With your permission, we would like to establish our new home here, in your solar system. We can share our knowledge of space travel, help humanity reach the stars." The human leaders didn't take long to agree. Already, the combination of human practical skills and alien advanced science was producing amazing results. In the ship's workshop, engineers from both species were designing new hybrid systems that were both powerful and reliable. "But first," Commander Wilson said, "we need to get your ships fully operational again." The repair effort became the largest joint operation in human history. Space stations were built around the alien fleet, where teams worked to install permanent power systems. The aliens began teaching humans about their quantum technology, while humans showed them how to build backup systems that couldn't fail. In the archive vessel, now fully powered and stable, historians from both species worked to record the story of the rescue. They called it the Jupiter Miracle, the moment when humanity proved itself ready to join the galactic community. Linda and White Cloud, both fully recovered, led a new engineering academy where humans and aliens taught each other. Young engineers learned to combine the best of both worlds, human creativity with alien precision. "You know what's funny?" Linda said to White Cloud as they watched their students work. "All this started because your technology was too advanced to work with ours. Now we're building something better together." On Earth, preparations began for the arrival of the first alien ambassadors. The refugees would bring new ideas, new technologies, and new ways of thinking. In return, humanity would teach them about resilience, about finding simple solutions to complex problems. Commander Wilson stood with Captain Bright Star in the Hope's observation deck, watching Earth grow larger in the view screen. The alien fleet, now partially repaired, moved with them in perfect formation. "Our people thought we had lost everything," Bright Star said quietly. "Our home, our future. Instead, we found a new home, and more importantly, new friends who showed us a different way of thinking." Wilson smiled. And we found something too. We always looked at the stars and wondered if we were ready to join a larger community. Now we know. We didn't need the most advanced technology. We just needed to be ourselves. As the fleet approached Earth orbit, ships from every nation rose to meet them. Russian cruisers flew alongside Chinese space stations. European shuttles escorted American carriers. The whole world had united to save the alien refugees, and in doing so, had discovered its own strength. The final entry in the ship's log read, "Today marks not the end of a rescue mission, but the beginning of a new chapter in human history. We reached for the stars and found not just alien life, but a reflection of our own best qualities: courage, creativity, and an unwavering determination to help others in need." Two civilizations, one ancient and advanced, one young and resourceful, had found each other in the darkness of space. Together, they would build a future brighter than either could have imagined alone.